Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Jason here, and oh man, more Starfield because I cannot get enough of Starfield. So today, we're going to be talking about some similarities with No Man's Sky because there is one major similarity that I think every No Man's Sky player is going to either love or just be interested in because there is scanning in Starfield, and it is very similar to the way scanning works in No Man's Sky. So a lot of the footage we've seen is just the players going around exploring the planets and all that kind of stuff, but not a lot has been said about scanning creatures, plants, minerals, that kind of stuff. But you can do that in Starfield, and just like in No Man's Sky, you get rewards for scanning all the different plants and animals and minerals on each planet. Now, the big difference it looks like, well, one of the big differences is there's not as many or not a huge variety as compared to No Man's Sky. So it feels like it's pared down, like there's more handcrafted aspects to this versus No Man's Sky. In No Man's Sky, you guys know, if you play No Man's Sky for more than an hour, you go to multiple planets, you kind of get a feeling of, okay, there's a toxic planet, it always has this plant, these kind of animals, all that kind of stuff. You basically get a pattern of every radiation planet has a similar looking plant, all that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of them. You can land on a planet and there's going to be like 10 or 15 or 20 different plants. There's going to be like 20 different rocks. There's going to be like 10, 15 different animals sometimes. Some animals, or some planets, I should say, in No Man's Sky will have like 5. But a lot of them will have like 7, 8, 10, maybe even 12 animals. A lot of different animals on the planet. It looks like in Starfield, they actually pared it back a little bit because there is more handcrafted aspects to it. So not only are you getting, you're getting a fewer minerals, or your rocks, your plant life, but they're more handcrafted and more specific for that planet. So it's kind of a cool idea. I like that. The other aspect of it is it's procedurally generated. You know what? Actually, I'll have them tell you. The procedural generation in Starfield is very, very cool. I like it. I think I might like it more than No Man's Sky's version.
I think what's cool about this whole system that we generate the planet itself as a procedural content, but the handcrafted content itself comes as the player explore. Our system builds the planet as the player approaches it. We stitch together a block of terrain. After that, we have the system that adds interesting locations for the player to explore, creatures to encounter, ore and plants to pick up. So even if your friends were to visit the same planet that you had, you would have a different story to tell.
So that is crazy sounding. What it sounds like what they're doing is every planet is set. So if it's an ice planet, it's always an ice planet. However, when a player gets close enough, or when the player lands on a planet, there's a system, a procedural generation system that says, okay, we're going to put a cave over here, we're going to put a base over here, and it just will randomly do that. So when I land on a planet, I will have a specific base or a cave be generated by my system. If you land on the same exact planet, it'll populate something else. It might not do a cave, it might give you multiple different bases or whatever. So there's kind of a weird, like, underlying system that modifies a planet procedurally. So it's randomized within reason. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of a system where it only pulls from an area of, okay, there can only be so many bases, there can only be so many caves on a certain planet. So you won't be able to get an extreme variance, but there's going to be a variety of different locations that can pop up, or maybe they don't pop up. That is very, very cool. Now, in No Man's Sky, everything is procedurally generated, but it is locked in. So if I go to a planet and then you go to a planet, it's the same exact planet. It never changes. Since Starfield has a single player only, it's only single player, they can modify and change that stuff on the fly. And there is actually a system in place for it. Now, again, it doesn't look like there's a lot of variance. Like, they're not going to like a planet might not, you know, if it's an icy planet for me, it's going to be icy for you. They're not completely changing all the planets. I'm sure that also means that the animals are all going to be the same, the plants, the rocks, all of that kind of stuff is already generated. Every planet is kind of locked in on that level. But the bases, it looks like, the cave systems, any kind of like handcrafted items that they would place on the planet are actually procedurally generated. That is very, very cool. It's going to be kind of weird. We're not going to see very many guides on that, because how do you make a guide when you know that the story mission is only based on the next planet you visit? So technically, if I know I'm in a story mission, they say, hey, you need to find this base, and I always know that the next base or the next planet will have that base, it could be any planet I choose. So that's what it sounds like, is that whenever you land on a planet, it's modifying and adjusting according to where you are in the story, according to your specific game. And it might be different for another player, another person, your friend, or me. That is so freaking cool. In addition to the scanning nature of this, you get rewards for scanning everything in a system and everything on a planet, just like in No Man's Sky. So if you scan all the animals, you're going to get a reward, a money reward. You turn in that info. It also looks like the scanning is going to be different in Starfield compared to No Man's Sky. So in No Man's Sky, you look at an item, like you look at a plant, you hold down the scan button and it just scans it completely. What it feels like, the small little tidbits we've gotten from Starfield, it looks like you have to scan more than one animal. So if you scan an animal once, it'll give you 25% scan. Then you have to scan it a second time, a different animal. You have to go find another one, scan it again, and it'll bring it up to 50%. And then if you find a third one, so you have to scan 4 of the same animal in order to get a complete scan of that species. Or the same thing for a plant or a rock. You have to find multiple types of that one, multiple versions, I guess, multiples of that one rock or multiples of that one plant in order to get a full scan on it. Very, very cool. Guys, I am so excited. We have less than 2 months until Starfield comes out, about a month and a half now. I am so pumped up. Don't forget, September 1st is early access. If you pre-order the, the deluxe edition or whatever, you get the game 5 days early. So you can get it on September 1st. If you just want to play it on Game Pass, and I would always recommend, just if you have Game Pass, it's very, very cheap compared to a $70 game. You pay $15 and you got Game Pass for the month. Get Game Pass, jump in there, and you can get in there on September 6th. So about a week later on, 5 days later, you can get in there. Low cost, basically you're not paying any extra for Starfield. Always recommend Game Pass. There's other games on there that, you can play in addition to, anyway, I don't want to, pimp it out too much, but guys, it is coming. I am so excited. I'm going to be streaming the first minute we're allowed to play Starfield. I will be playing Starfield on a stream. So hopefully I'll see you guys there, and I will see you guys next time.